Good afternoon, everybody. The Honourable Kerry Simons, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade with the Government of Barbados, David Mogolon, Head of Cooperation for the Delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, the OECS and CARICOM-CARIFORUM, Dr. Lynette Holder, Chairperson of the Board of Directors of Caribbean Export Development Agency, Mr. Deodat Maharaj, Executive Director, Caribbean Export Development Agency, Ambassador Lolita Applewhite, Envoy of the Prime Minister of Barbados to the Commonwealth and CARICOM, Heads of Organizations, Mr. Isaac Solomon, President of Caribbean Development Bank. We also have representatives. Was it me? Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, members of the private sector, and staff from Caribbean Export, welcome to the 2023 Annual Results Report launch and the closeout of the 11th EDF Regional Private Sector Development Programme. It's absolutely wonderful to have you all with us this afternoon. In this hot, sunny Wednesday day. And I'm absolutely pleased to be here at the Accra Beach Hotel here in Bridgetown, Barbados, as we look at the year that has just passed us in 2023 and all of the wonderful work and programs that we've been doing. The annual results report has become a signature for the agency since 2021 when we did our first annual results report, and we've continued to do so to really highlight the great work that the agency is doing and the impact of the programs that we're implementing on the private sector and on our regional economies as a whole. So I welcome you all here today. We will welcome a number of our speakers just shortly, and we'll have a panel discussion a little bit later on where we'll be hearing from some of the beneficiaries of our programs, and that will really give you a good insight as to how these programs have really impacted and affected the businesses that have been able to leverage the support that has been provided. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our Chair of the Board of Directors, Dr. Lynette Holder, to give her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Master of Ceremonies. I'll share with you that in preparing for this session, my speechwriter said to me, whatever you do, don't try to be too charming, too witty, or too intelligent. Just be yourself. So with that said, I will focus this afternoon on a very brief presentation. Let me recognize the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, the Honorable Kerry Simons, our Executive Director, Deodat Maharaj, delegation of the European Union to Barbados, colleagues that are here with us this afternoon, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of regional and international agencies, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. They say that, 3 times is a charm, and I feel as if I was making this presentation just yesterday. This is now our 3rd time that we are presenting our results report to our stakeholders. I'm very pleased, colleagues, to be able to bring opening remarks on this occasion. And so on behalf of the board, management and staff, I welcome you to this evening's gathering. Today marks a significant milestone as we unveil our annual results report for a 3rd time, chronicling the remarkable achievements of the agency for 2023. Caribbean Export is the regional agency supporting private sector development across the Caribbean, continues to forge ahead, working with partners to build resilience and empower business. This event that we host today is a celebration of our enduring journey and the robust partnerships that we have fostered during that time. The European Union has demonstrated the strength of partnership under the various iterations of the European Development Fund and the 11th EDF, which we started back in 2017 and which came to an end in September of last year. The EU's support has been pivotal in cementing our role as a catalyst for private sector development, and as a chapter of the EDF, the 11th EDF, close, we remain profoundly grateful for the EU's trust and commitment as we launch 1 month later the successor program, the third EU Regional Private Sector Development Program, which will run until 2027. Now, our commitment to fostering regional integration and sustainable development was also exemplified through the successful completion of the Haiti-Dominican Republic binational program in 2023. Despite the conclusion of this program, Caribbean Export remains dedicated to supporting the Haitian private sector and contributing to the sustainable development of the country amidst the prevailing challenges. Throughout last year, we honed our focus on the private sector issues, ICT, renewable energy, and agriculture, sectors we believe that will transform our region. Through our landmark initiative, the Caribbean Investment Forum, convened for the second time last year in the Bahamas, it cemented the vision of the agency to position the Caribbean as an attractive location to do business. And let me put in a plug here at this time to encourage all of you to join us in July in Guyana for the third iteration of the CIF, and I'm sure that our team will share a little bit more about that as the evening progresses. The Caribbean Investment Forum 2023 registered an impressive attendance rate. It's so impressive that it just left the screen. Of 89% from 547 delegates, an increase from the 78% attendance rate in 2022. CIF 2023 emerged as a global investment hub, attracting over 40 investors, ranging from angel investors to debt financiers, and showcasing a wide array of financing options. This underscores CIF's pivotal role as a premier platform for investment and financial collaboration across diverse sectors. So our journey last year also marked a significant expansion of our partnerships, notably with the Virtual E-Commerce Accelerator Program, or known as VEAP, a partnership with Expertise France, as well as a new partner we brought on board in UNESCO. And they augmented our endeavors in sustainable development and cultural exchange, thereby bolstering the socio-economic development of our member countries. Collaborating with VEAP, and I see some of our small business colleagues in the room this afternoon who are very familiar with the VEAP program. So collaborating with VEAP has been instrumental in helping us to catapult our digital and e-commerce strategies, thus positioning business in our region to succeed in the digital economy. Moreover, work on the IDB's Caribbean Digital Transformation Initiative and the EU Latin American Caribbean Digital Accelerator programs continue apace. All of this you're going to read in the report that's being shared this afternoon. This strategic pivot towards digital transformation and e-commerce reflects our adaptive approach to the evolving global landscape. Caribbean Export has consistently stood at the forefront of private sector development, showcasing resilience, vision, and innovation. In the wake of the economic fragility post-COVID-19, our focus has been on mobilizing high-impact capital and integrating new technologies to facilitate the region's rebuilding efforts. And this strategy underscores our commitment to delivering market-responsive solutions that address the private sector's challenges. So in conclusion, colleagues, I extend my heartfelt thanks to our Executive Director, management and staff of the agency for our continued achievements as we are demonstrating in the last year, 2023. Their dedication and perseverance have culminated in outstanding outcomes, meriting our collective praise. As we look ahead, the Board of Directors is confident in the agency's continuous role as an indispensable partner for the private sector, providing innovative and strategic support tailored to the dynamic needs of our member countries. Our ongoing alignment with these needs highlights our unwavering support to fostering sustainable growth and prosperity throughout the region. Some of you may have heard me say in the past that there are those who never stop to think and those who never think to stop. I hope I have not been either of them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you ever so much, Dr. Holder. I think, as always, you captivated everybody's attention and shared some very pertinent results that we've achieved over the last 12 months. Now, this has been a new occasion for us, actually, to do this a little bit earlier in the afternoon, because, to be honest, I wanted you all to come here and kind of focus on us and not the work in the office, so to speak. And then you'll be able to let your hair down and, you know, enjoy some networking time with everybody else. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Deodat Maharaj, to come and give his remarks.
Thank you so much, Joellen. And of course, thank you, Dr. Holder. I have very little to say now. Thank you so much. Honorable Carrie Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, thank you so much for coming and joining us. Dr. Lynette Holder, the Chair of our Board of Directors. I'd like to recognize our colleague, Isaac Solomon, Acting President of the Caribbean Development Bank, our partners and colleagues, David Mogollon and team from the European Union. I would like to recognize my friend and colleague, Ambassador Lolita Apawait, the Prime Minister Motley's envoy to the Commonwealth and CARICOM, heads of regional institutions, our clients in the business community, my fantastic staff, members of the media. A really pleasant good afternoon to you. And thank you so much for coming as we launch our third consecutive annual results report. So what we are launching is not a report, it's a results report, demonstrating the value for money, Sylvia, that we are providing as a custodian of funds from development partners. So for us at Caribbean Export, we had a vision, and our vision was simply to be the best. But it's hard to really achieve that vision. So we had to work, because you need a lot of hard work. But our vision is to be the preferred partner and the best possible implementing partner for regional private sector development projects across this Caribbean of ours. And our hallmark is continuous striving for excellence. I'm happy to see my friend and brother Dave Sahadat here, who leads GIFS, Minister Simmons, and I'll perhaps talk about that a bit later. And him and his company small company from small Barbados, as a consequence of the work that we have together at Caribbean Export, is now doing business in Ghana. So striving for excellence has nothing to do with size. It has much more to do with resolve and ambition. And we at Caribbean Export and the fantastic team I have, that's what we do. And why do we want to do an annual results report? Because when I joined this agency 3 years ago, I discussed with my staff, I don't know if I was quite democratic or not, but we agreed that we'll do 3 things. And I've said it at the last 2 launches, Dr. Holder. We're going to focus on 1 people, delivering results. That's our first focus, Minister Simmons. Our second focus, Kean, is delivering results. And Sylvia, guess what our third focus is? On delivering results. So we have a forensic focus on delivering results, but not delivering results all over the place, but where it matters on the ground and in the lives of people to create jobs and opportunity for our Caribbean people. So our people don't vote with their feet. They have opportunities here to build and contribute to this fantastic Caribbean of ours. Dr. Holder certainly commended the European Union, but allow me, David, to do the same, and please convey our deepest appreciation to Ambassador Wasiluska and the entire team, because the European Union had the foresight to invest in private sector development when it wasn't fashionable for any donor. And the fact that you did that in earlier iterations of the EDF, the 11th EDF, and through the Global Gateway Project, is a testimony, an eloquent testimony to your commitment to the region. And we are deeply grateful for that partnership. And why is this MSME so important? Minister Simmons was speaking with me earlier, talking about the importance of our micro, small, and medium-scale enterprise sector. The reality, and Sylvia, you know this well working at Compete Caribbean, is that over 75, close to 80% of businesses in our region, they are micro, small, or medium-scale enterprises. They account for around 55 to 60% of the region's GDP and close to 70% of the region's employment. So we can't drive transformation in this region of ours if we don't focus on this most obvious sector. And that's why I pay particular tribute for the vision of the European Union to partner with us. And I'm happy that as Caribbean Export, we are talking about results, but results is not only generating results on the ground, but it's how you achieve those results. So for the 11th Regional Private Sector Development Program of the European Union, our implementation rate, as our chair indicated, was 93%. I admire Prime Minister Motley immensely, and Prime Minister Motley is a very effective advocate for Barbados and the Caribbean, and goes all over the world, including you, Minister, and heads some and ministers from across the region, asking for additional concessional financing for our region. And Isaac, I'm sure you are doing the same, right, through the SDF funding mechanism at the Caribbean Development Bank. But what is important to recognize is that sometimes with the little money that we have, we're not effectively spending it. And that's why at Caribbean Export, we have a big, big focus on implementation. So our regional private sector development program, the rate of implementation, I like to repeat it because it's impressive, and I'm proud of the work this team have done, 93%. One of the best rates of implementation of any regional institution, with a caveat, of course, if not the best, one of the best. We have a binational program with the Dominican Republic and Haiti, the only such program that brings the 2 countries together in a very structured way for trade and investment. And that program, as much as we have so many challenging situations in Haiti, we achieved that implementation rate of around 84%, notwithstanding all those difficulties. And one clear result of that program is a symbiosis for those who wear jewelry, which was a joint project bringing craftspeople from Haiti and the Dominican Republic to do unique designs, reflecting the culture and heritage of that fantastic island. And that's a result that we are absolutely proud of. for 2023, I spoke about a forensic focus on results. But what is more important, and Kian, you're doing this day in, day out for Invest Barbados. Every time I speak, Kian has to move ahead from a phone. I like that, Kian. But we need to have a focus also on driving transformation. And Minister Simmons, it's not about being a flavor of the month organization. So Caribbean Export, we are staying true to our mission and our values and vision. So we are focusing on sectors that are driving transformation: innovation, digitalization, and technology, sustainable agriculture, and leveraging technology in agriculture. And the third area has to do with our climate vulnerability and green economy transition, and making our businesses, Isaac, fit for purpose and able as well to take advantage of the immense opportunities a green economy transition will provide. So more specifically, the work that we did was like improving the competitiveness of firms, steering investments to our region, and focusing on services as the next frontier for Caribbean business, but doing a lot of work in that digitalization, technology, innovation space. And we recognize early that for our businesses to compete, they have to take advantage of technology. And Dr. Holder spoke about three flagship projects. One, the EU LAC Digital Accelerator Program, which is a 14 million euro EU program connecting businesses in the digital space in the Caribbean, Latin America, and Europe, and creating joint ventures, peer-to-peer learning, which will help position our businesses. We have our virtual e-commerce accelerator program, where 80 businesses have already registered and can sell their goods and services, Minister Simmons, globally without going on a mission, without leaving Barbados or Grenada or Trinidad and Tobago, for that matter. And the last area has to do with the Caribbean Investment Forum. I mean, the trend has been we promote investment for the region in London and Ottawa and wherever else, and that should continue. But the Caribbean Investment Forum is intended to bring business here. And Dr. Hola gave the numbers, but 92% of all participants are businesses. And this is something that we went and we started to do. We were shocked by the results. The next iteration is in Guyana, 10 to 12 July 2024. And guess what the focus of the Caribbean Investment Forum 2024 will be on? Again, our three core priorities. So we don't want to be a flavor of the month institution. And the three priorities are innovation, digitalization, technology, leveraging technology in agriculture, and that green economy transition. I mean, those are really critical areas for our region as we seek to drive a truly transformational agenda. But to do this, we need partners. And I've mentioned the European Union. This project we have, the Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute, is with Compete Caribbean and the Inter-American Development Bank, who have recognized the importance of leveraging technology and innovation for businesses. Isaac, we are very grateful for the partnership that we have had with CDB, because on the investment front, we need projects. We don't need concept notes. We don't need ideas. We need solid projects, and CDB has been magnificent in helping us to finance the development of concrete projects to take to investors. So we are really deeply grateful for that partnership. And as a former staff member of CDB, I do hope that we can continue to build on the strong relationship with CDB as the premier regional financial institution for the region, and with us as the premier implementing partner for private sector development projects. I think that sounds pretty good, Isaac, right? But we are deeply grateful to IDB, Compete Caribbean, European Union, also Expertise France, Technalia, UNESCO, and a host of other partners. When I started this journey at Caribbean Export, we had one primary partner, was the European Union. And what has happened, David, is that thanks to the support of the European Union, you have given us a foundation and a base that we have used to bring in other partners to deliver results where they matter on the ground and in the lives of our people. The last point I want to make is that when we talk about transformation in the region, we also need new thinking for the new times that we're in. And thanks so much for coming, Roddy. Roddy joins us for our events, and I'm very indebted to the CARICOM Development Fund and the colleagues for the partnership that we have, and we will continue to build on, Roddy. So here in the Caribbean, we speak a lot about Africa, one people, and those historical and inextricable ties. But at Caribbean Export, we saw the political momentum taking us forward, Minister Simmons. But we recognize that the slogan, by the way, of Caribbean Export is less talk and more business, all right? So we decided that, listen, we had a lot of talk going on. The leaders are pushing us in this direction. So we decided, Minister Simmons, to do something about it. So we led an inaugural mission to Ghana in the first instance, and we were happy Invest Barbados also participated, and Nigeria. And this was a landmark mission because what we did to generate trade and investment between Africa and the Caribbean or any new market, what we need to do is to create that platform that the Caribbean Investment Forum provides, where business can engage with business to create business. And we were delighted with the results that we have achieved in just one inaugural mission. And Dave Sahadat perhaps will talk a bit later about how he benefited. I hope there's a lot of foreign exchange coming, Dave, to Barbados as a consequence of the contracts that you're signing. But we are really delighted that we can demonstrate clear and concrete results. And that part of Africa going forward is really, really important. Whilst we in the Caribbean need to consolidate our existing markets, right? It's so important to reach out to new ones. And Africa is a natural partner and a natural place for us to work. I think in closing, what I would want to say is once more to thank our partners for with us. I would like to thank the government of Barbados for being with us and a very strong partner and supporter. I would like to thank Dr. Holder and our board of directors who have done a splendid job as we have sought not to only advance a transformational agenda, but to transform our institution as well. And how do we do that? I'm particularly proud of many things, but just one thing I want to mention. Our ambition was to be the most accountable and transparent institution anywhere in the Caribbean. So if you go to our website, www.carib-export.com, you will see all our audit reports. I believe we are the only institution that's doing that. So we are committed to accountability and transparency. And whether the audit reports are good, they are bad, or indifferent, they are there, all right? For the world to see. And we are really proud of that achievement. And I would like to thank my staff. I mean, we have delivered a lot of results. It's not many of us. And it's nice to put on I have a few ties, so it's nice to put on this one. I particularly like this one so I can match Kian. But they do all the work. They do all the work. So please, let us give them a warm round of applause. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Deodat. I mean, yes, we're a small team, and we do a lot of work, just so you don't know. So at this point, I think I would like to invite our long-standing partner, the European Union, Mr. David Moglon. He's the head of cooperation for the delegation of the European Union to Barbados, the Eastern Caribbean, the OECS, and CARICOM, CARIFORUM. So please do.
Thank you, everybody, and apologies for the absence of our ambassador, Margorzata Wasilewska, who was not able to make it today. But that gives me the pleasure and the honor of being here in front of you and participating actively in this event. Indeed, as it has been mentioned, I think the European Union, we have been a loyal partner of Caribbean Export from the beginning, and I'm very, very glad to understand, and we have discussed without that, the fact that the financial base has been open so much that we are not so critical in our support, and that's a big success. And I think we really appreciate it. We hope to continue being a very reliable partner. And thanks a lot as well. It's a pleasure for me as well to be here with Dr. Holder, Kyo, and all the partners in the room. Perfect. The European Union and Caribbean Export, together, we have been working hand in hand to drive Caribbean economic transformation and private sector development. The positive results we are presenting today from the 11th EDF Private Sector Development Program are a clear example of our fruitful partnership and the European Union's engagement and commitment to the Caribbean region. Today, in the framework of this results event, we are also formally closing a program that has been supporting development, supporting employment creation, and contributing towards the greater economic development of the Caribbean region since 1970, with a substantial contribution of more than 27 million euros. It's almost 60 million Barbados dollars, what is pretty substantial for our standards. We have, through Caribbean Export, assisted small and medium-sized enterprises to become more competitive, more diversified, and more resilient to global challenges. Thanks to this program, we have built private sector capacity at the firm level to increase export competitiveness, strengthen business support organizations, and strengthen regional mechanisms to develop a more effective business-enabling environment. The program has also been instrumental in supporting the implementation of the CARIFORUM EU Economic Partnership Agreement, and we have here our colleague Arek, who is working on trade relationship with the Caribbean. This Economic Partnership Agreement is a free trade agreement that allows an asymmetric duty-free and quota-free access for Caribbean firms to the 450 million consumers market that compose the European single market. This is a huge opportunity for many Caribbean companies, but of course we understand that there are some shortcomings and some challenges to access that market. That's why, through supports like the Caribbean Export Program, we try to improve this potential to access. So while we say goodbye to this 11th EDF Regional Private Sector Development Program, I would like to acknowledge the tremendous work and effort that the whole team in Caribbean Export has been doing all these years to transform these needs into success. And I think this really deserves a round of applause. New times bring new challenges for the private sector, while the Caribbean is still not an easy place to do business. In this sense, the European Union is committed to continue supporting the Caribbean to bring economic growth, job creation, and social inclusion to the region. This commitment has been now reinforced thanks to the Global Gateway Strategy, which is the EU's offer to bridge the Caribbean investment gap and leverage private capital to boost innovative, sustainable, and transformative investments. A clear example on how the EU is landing the Global Gateway Strategy in the Caribbean is the new Regional Private Sector Development Program. Once again, the EU is partnering with Caribbean Export and joining efforts to continue supporting sustainable and inclusive economic growth and job creation in the region with a clear focus on digital transformation, green transition, and supporting MSMEs' access to the European market, while at the same time, and this is new, we are trying to attract European investment to the Caribbean. Something that, as you know, is not always obvious, not always easy, considering some shortcomings for the islands. Intense 4 years of work are ahead of us, but we are not lacking neither the knowledge, neither the enthusiasm to tackle them. Colleagues, partners, friends, before closing my intervention, allow me to use this opportunity to thank personally Deodat Maharaj for his strong commitment and clear vision to promote investment and trade in the Caribbean. Deodat, I wish you a successful career full of personal satisfaction. All the best in the coming years.
Thank you ever so much, David. We're actually going to keep the focus a little bit now on the European Union and in particular the 11th EDF programme. As you would have heard it mentioned a couple of times this morning, this afternoon, you know, we've had a very good or successful implementation rate in terms of implementing the programme. So we want to just take a few moments this afternoon just to go into it a little bit more detail. The programme, which started in 2017, actually finished just last year in 2023. And so I'm very pleased to have with us this afternoon a couple of the beneficiaries of that programme. We have Joanna Edgehill from Mega Power. So if you'd like to join me on the stage. We also have Ms. Ingrid Brathwaite as well from Jay's Enterprises, another business here in Barbados. And we also have Kayan Greenwich, the CEO of Invest Barbados as well. And to take us through this programme, and also we have Felipe, of course, from the European Union to join us. And to take us through the results of this programme, and as we kind of do things a little bit differently. So we'll hear some of the results, and we'll also be talking to our guests here this afternoon. Dr. Dami Sinanen, our Manager for Competitiveness and Export Promotion, who will walk us through those results, and we'll have a bit of exchange so you can get a really good insight into what's happened over the last kind of 5-7 years as such. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joellen, and pleasant good afternoon to our distinguished panel, as well as our honored guests, all protocols observed. It's certainly, on a personal note, it's certainly a pleasure for me to stand here to talk about the results of the 11th EDF Regional Private Sector Development Program, because I was around from the very start. I think I'm one of the few technical team members who are still here way back from January 2017 all the way to here. Joellen, of course, is here, but I'm talking about me. One of the few, I said. So it's certainly, on a personal point of view, certainly a pleasure to see that program implemented and to see where we are today, to understand the impact that that program had on our beneficiaries, and to really present the results to the public, and to know that we have a successor program in place that hopefully I will be here to see through till the very end once again. So let me just basically start. We have our presentation here. How it's going to work, so just so that it won't be me just standing here and talking and you looking at a PowerPoint slide for the next 15-20 minutes, is I will go through some of the major results of the 11th EDF, and then I will ask Joellen to take it to our panel so they can sort of comment and give their thoughts on the work that we did. We think that'll be a very good way and a very good interactive way to make sure that we all stay awake and we all keep our energy up until the drinks are served later on. So, the 11th EDF. The 11th EDF was launched in January 2017. Caribbean Export, as the implementing agency, embarked upon this initiative, which really the objective of was to bolster was to implement a substantial commitment of over 24.5 million euro from the European Union, which aimed to build on the achievements of its predecessor, the 10th EDF, while harnessing the potential of the region. You know why I'm having a little trouble? I forgot. I'm actually going blind. Yeah. Furthermore, in recognition of the unprecedented disruptions wrought by the COVID-19 pandemic, an additional €3 million was earmarked by the EU in 2020 to provide direct financial assistance to firms grappling with the adverse effects of the crisis. The objectives of the 11th EDF was to build private sector capacity to increase export competitiveness, to strengthen BSO capacity to provide greater support, and to promote effective public-private dialogue. Ultimately, to foster employment creation, inclusiveness, and poverty alleviation within CARIFORUM states through a targeted array of interventions. And you will hear about a number of those interventions this afternoon. We can't, unfortunately, go through all of them because it was a very large program and we did a lot of work over the last 6 years. But we will certainly try to capture the major interventions that went forward. So noteworthy achievements of the program included a commendable, and we've heard it many times before, so I'm going to say it again, a 93% project implementation rate, underpinned by some 150 meticulously curated program interventions that have positively impacted more than 12,000 individuals and facilitated the implementation of 5 calls for proposals for grant funding, awarding over 7.3 million euros to 288 beneficiaries. So while we let those numbers sink in, I will throw it over to Joellen to speak a bit about these results that we have achieved from the 11th EDF.
Thank you ever so much, Damien. Yeah, so I mean, the grants program, as you know, is a very important tool. You know, for any business that's out there, they're looking to expand, they're looking to go into new marketplaces, and the grants have been utilized quite a lot for the agency in order to support the development of the private sector. We have with us today, actually, Joe Edgehill, who is obviously the CEO or manager and co-founder, should I say, of Mega Power Business, and who would have utilized the support not only under the 10th, but also under the 11th EDF. Tell us, Joe, how has it been for you?
It's been 11 years of you and me, Joe, hasn't it? So I actually predate 11th EDF. We had a grant in 2013 under the 10th, which at that time, Barbados certainly had no electric vehicles, but I guess Caribbean Export saw and appreciated our vision and gave us a grant for the first solar carport and electric vehicle charging point. And so that was substantial at that time. And that led to our business, which initially was to install solar PV carports. But we quickly realized that actually persons coming to see us were not really interested in the solar PV carports, but really wanted an electric vehicle. Then under the 11th EDF, we expanded through support from Caribbean Export to create Barbados' first battery reuse laboratory, which we've done many projects under and continue to. And actually, with more and more electric vehicles now on the road, we have an increasing need to expand out that battery lab and look at how do we repurpose batteries in the vehicles that we sell, and how do we make them useful. So the concept being use of the battery beyond the useful life of the vehicle. So it's been a partnership for many years. When Joellen said, you know, please come down and share your story of Mega Power, I thought, gosh, well, it's so long ago since we worked together, but it isn't, because actually we're still using the facilities and the brand and business has grown because of that initial support in 2013.
You know, that's fantastic to hear, and also to see the difference. I remember when we did the first kind of EV car rally along with the EU, unfortunately that was before before you were here, Felipe, where there was just a few cars that went around Bushy Park and so forth, and that was a fantastic kind of, I guess, promotional activity. But it really showed also the kind of the commitment as well, the commitment and the investment that you guys have put in, but also from the European Union's point of view, that are actually funding these programs. So I'd actually just like to turn it to Felipe to kind of, for you to just kind of share a little bit more about the European Union's kind of objectives and, why have you guys been doing this for the last 20 years, if not more?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And apparently I missed this Bushy Park event, which I absolutely would have enjoyed, yeah. I mean, from a development practitioner's point of view, it really is fantastic to hear these success stories, because we all know that grant financing is limited, and the use of grant financing to support private sector development has many angles, right? You can work on the business environment, you can work with technical assistance with the countries, you can help out at different levels, and one of them, maybe the most difficult to justify, if you want, to European taxpayers, is the use of direct funds to companies that are not necessarily European or have no links to develop those services and those products. But for the European Union, traditionally, this has been a fantastic mechanism to try to link our regions together, to try to build capacities and to build a lot more economic relations with our partner countries. And particularly in the context of the Economic Partnership Agreement, where what we're trying to do as well is to use, as David was saying earlier, the immense pull of the European single market to try to increase trade and increase commerce and ideally increase investments, and with investments, of course, technology transfer, etc., and all that comes with it, with the region. This is something that has always worked well for the EU, for our partners, and where we're always going to be keen. Of course, we're looking at additional, maybe if you want complementary types of support, financial guarantees. We're always evolving in that sense. But for us, it's a key pillar of our cooperation with the region.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So Joe, what's next for Megapower as we look at things? How many people do you employ now?
So we would have started as a team of 3 back in 2013, and we're now 25 across 3 locations, as well as our office in Antigua. We kind of put a pause on export activities during COVID, and since as well, but really kept the focus on Barbados and building our brand here, making sure that, we're looking at various different segments of the market, expanding our parts department. And, all of this has been exciting, but certainly not without challenges as well. So what's next? Right now we sell, electric vehicles that range from buses to small passenger cars. And I think there's still a lot of different market segments that we don't look at that we hopefully will soon. So there's still a lot of growth to come.
Fantastic. No, that's great to hear. And obviously, whilst we're doing these programs, a big part of it is also supporting the capacity building. So I'll hand over to Damie to tell us a little bit more about what we've been doing in this area.
Sure. Thank you very much. Just to put a bow on the grant facilities, I just wanted to note that it's all about impact, it's all about results. Just briefly, of all the firms that have received grant funding, 77% of them have improved their productive capacities and efficiencies, with 63% enhancing their facilities. We also have created 307 new jobs, expansion of exports into 23 new markets, yielding an estimated export value of $2.1 million. And that is just the firms that we were able to survey. So in terms of capacity building and export promotion, some highlights. Between the years 2017 and 2013, a total of 120 workshops, webinars, and technical assistance products were tailored specifically for businesses. They were organized and delivered. These sessions attracted a substantive participation of just under 10,000 individuals, and it's based on enhancing their business capacities. Workshops included leveraging the EPA, which we spoke about earlier, our ProNet suite of training services that builds capacity building of MSMEs, energy auditing, and our launch to market program. And I'd like to also make special mention of our We Export program that benefited 20 female-owned entrepreneurs in the Caribbean region, and we still continue to see the lasting impacts of that program. In terms of export promotion, our major activities included the 4th CARIFORUM EU Business Forum that was held in Frankfurt, Germany, as well as our Nougat trade show in Cologne, Germany, CIAL Paris. When we had the COVID lockdown, we were able to pivot to have an absolutely Caribbean virtual trade show in 2020, and then we resumed with our specialty fine food fairs in London, UK. These programs have resulted in significant exports to the EU markets. So I'll turn over to Joe to get some more insight from our beneficiaries.
Thank you. Sorry, excuse me. Thank you ever so much, Damien. So I'm really pleased to have Ingrid with us here. I think we've done a couple of trade shows together now, right? Yes. From the 4th CARIFORUM EU Business Forum to Specialty Fine Food Fair in the UK and CIAL in Paris. Tell us a little bit about your experience of going to these different trade shows.
Thank you, Joellen, and good evening, everyone. It has been a good experience, I would say, one that helped us to recognize the importance of being readily prepared for exports. And being a small business, you were exceedingly proud of the fact that you were able to attend a show in, let's say, CIAL, France, where the participants are worldwide, from all over the world, and pretty much we are able to offer, a view of what we do and to showcase our range of products. So that was indeed an excellent arena to showcase our products, and pretty much we had great interest. I saw it as an opportunity to learn from their market, and to determine how best we would be positioned in, like an international market such as France.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it's a challenge. Obviously, I understand that the Caribbean is a small market. These are small markets, and these really are small businesses as such. And when you go into these international markets where you see these great big stands and they're all done, but for some reason, everybody wants to know what's happening in the Caribbean, right? They see the big, absolutely Caribbean banner, and they see all of this vibe and this hype that comes from the Caribbean, and they want to know more and more and more about the products and what we have to offer. So I think it's fantastic that you were able to obviously participate in these events, and also, even from the capacity building side of things as well, for the ProNet courses and so forth. Because that also helps the employees, right?
It certainly does. And we were also the beneficiary of a grant whereby we were able to, improve our capacity output. And that was significant because in order to meet the demand, it is imperative that you're able to supply the demand, yes? So it was indeed, quite heartening to know that we could benefit from such grant assistance.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And the last area that we want to cover is really investment promotion. Caribbean Export, under the 10th EDF, we were able to work to develop a regional investment promotion strategy. And throughout the 11th EDF, we've been focused on implementing that regional investment promotion strategy. And the key platform coming out of that was really our Caribbean Investment Forum. We held our first Caribbean Investment Forum in November 2022 in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago, and Deodat spoke about, and the chair spoke about the numbers. Over 500 attendees. We actually had to close off registrations. Over 90% of them business persons. And you know what we say in Trinidad? It's so nice, we had to do it twice. So the second version was held in the Bahamas just last year in October. Similar results. Over 500 attendees, over 92% being business persons, many, many investors. And we're going to do it 3 times in Guyana, July 10th to the 12th in Georgetown. And I just wanted to highlight some of the results coming out of the CIF. We're starting to see actual investments take place. We know this takes time, negotiation takes time, but I'd like to proudly say that coming out of CIF 2022 and 2023, we've seen the Connect Caribe ferry service launch. That was a direct result of CIF. We saw Elevation Connect, a company out of the DR, set up a BPO in Dominica. So these are some results that we're actually seeing coming out of it. And I'd like to throw it over to Joe, who will get thoughts from Kian, who is an actual sponsor. Barbados is a sponsor of the Caribbean Investment Forum.
Thank you ever so much, and I'm going to hand over. Oh, okay. Thank you, Kay. So, I mean, investment. I mean, as an agency, I know we're called Caribbean Export, but we are also a trade and investment organisation. So, investment is a huge part of the, you know, the trade work that we do. How important are platforms like the Caribbean Investment Forum, the iGuides that would have been developed, the various trade missions and so forth? How important are these platforms for organizations and institutions like you that are obviously working hard to try and attract investment for your countries?
Thank you very much, Joellen. What I'll say is if you're not present, nobody remembers you. And therefore, these trade missions, these platforms, these avenues for you to get your message out there in terms of promoting your country, and in this case, obviously, from Invest Barbados, is very, very important. It gives a stage for you to tell those business persons who come to missions like the Caribbean Investment Forum, to give them your value proposition, what you have to offer, to be able to show them the projects that you are seeking investment for, and to show them why you should actually come and do your investment in Barbados and by extension in the Caribbean. It provides a forum that we don't necessarily have to go out there and always compete with everybody else in the global, the other big forums happening in Germany and France and wherever they're happening, but a unique place that the persons can come to the Caribbean to see what the Caribbean has to offer, what Barbados has to offer in one place, and to really delve in and get more information about, you know, what they're seeking, any investments that are there, and what benefits it is to invest in the Caribbean.
Fantastic, thank you. Because I think also, you know, one of the things that I've realized from working with these investment events is, and whilst, yes, of course, we want to attract investment from Europe, from North America, from everywhere else, but, you know, there's also the regional investment as well. One of the events that we did was the Outsource to the Caribbean, ITEL BPO, which is based in Jamaica. They ended up investing in St. Lucia, opening a call center, creating, you know, over 1,000 jobs. Joe, yourself, you've opened up an office in Antigua. That's regional trade, that's regional investment, and I think we shouldn't underestimate the power that we actually also have within the region to really be able to support our own economies as a whole. And so I wanted just to quickly throw that to Felipe, maybe just to have a final comment from yourself from a, you know, from an overall kind of trade and investment, you know, and how we can continue to kind of build upon these projects and these programs that we've been doing from the Europeans' perspective.
Well, maybe just a short mention of and commending the team for the work done on the CIF, because truly from 2022 and then last year and what we're going to be seeing this year, it certainly is creating ripples. We're seeing a lot of results from it. I think, as you say as well, the power is in the convening and the networking, and I think you've been very smart in organizing these events around less talk and certainly a lot more space for investors and the companies to actually meet and discuss, and the promotion agencies to be able to put that out there. We've heard, I mean, we've all been in these conferences and meetings, and we keep hearing about the bankable projects, the limits that we have to presenting and seeing these bankable projects. This is also the forums where we do see the discussions coming up on the challenges, the different investors teaming up and looking at the opportunities, and this is actually what we want to keep supporting, because we do see a lot of value in that, and of course from the EU perspective, bringing EU investors ideally, and the region has a bigger pull than the individual countries in many cases, right? So maybe some countries can do it on their own, but for the most part, the regional element also helps. So yeah, that's all I would add. Thanks.
Thank you ever so much. And I think obviously, you know, I appreciate that we've heard from everybody, and I think it's been really very interesting. But I'm very conscious of the time as well. So I would like to thank all of you for your time this afternoon and sharing each one of your perspectives and your stories as such. And I would now like to, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda.
Yeah, well, thank you so much to our panel, and I'll throw it over to you.
Too many roles, I've got too many mics, I don't know what to do next. Okay, so as I've said, it's a small team, right? Okay, so, you know, as I say, it's been great to hear some of these stories, but, you know, one thing that's always really great is, you know, when a minister takes the time out of his busy schedule to come and join us and to really hear the impact of the work, and hopefully also the effect it's obviously having on their own economies as well. And so I would love to invite the Honourable Kerry Simmons to give his feature address.
Well, good. A pleasant good evening to you all. Let me begin by acknowledging, I think protocol has been established, but I want to acknowledge in particular the ambassador representing the Office of the Prime Minister, Lolita Applewhite, and obviously the chair of the board, Dr. Holder, and of course yourself, Executive Director and representative of the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have benefited tremendously from a very useful set of presentations. And I want to begin by saying to you, Executive Director, that I think this is refreshing. And I do believe that you are correct in saying that this form of reporting is not only transparent and accountable, but to the best of my knowledge and belief, this agency is unique in Barbados at any rate, in terms of the approach that is taken. I believe that this should be a model or an example which should bind all of the others who benefit from public funds and from internationally sourced forms of revenue. I want to say that it is very often difficult to come to speak after such a lengthy type of presentation, because there's little fresh to say. But I want to, as much as I wanted to have been a faithful spouse to the speechwriter, I believe that I'm going to have to ask forgiveness as I reconstruct on my feet. But I think that it is important to recognize, Executive Director, that you've only been here at Caribbean Export for 3 years. And I perceive a substantial transformation in the performance of Caribbean Export during the course of the last few years. I obviously would not want only to congratulate you, but I want to congratulate your staff and, of course, your board of directors. But I think your leadership signals itself out for saluting and congratulations. I would urge everybody to lend a hand in that regard. And even as I salute your stewardship, I know that in my heart of hearts, it has been a difficult journey. I am aware that you would have had, in part, to navigate Caribbean Export through the very challenging waters of the COVID time. And as I say so, you know, the famous first paragraph of Charles Dickens's tale of Two Cities comes to mind. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. COVID would have presented us with some of the worst of times. And I think that you've been able to so navigate this agency through those times that we are now able to point to some of the best that Caribbean Export has been able to offer. You would have pioneered or led the charge of moving this agency from what was a manual, an analog type of agency and allowing it to pivot to a virtual platform and a technologically advanced platform. And I know it to be a fact that you've had some very successful webinars which have linked companies and countries in this CARIFORUM region. There are 15 states of CARIFORUM, the CARICOM plus the DR, and Africa, and I believe Europe as well. And the transformation technologically, I think we would have just witnessed it there firsthand. The transformation technologically has been something that is very significant. Equally, I think that it should be underscored that before your tenure, there was a little bit of a gender bias associated with this agency. I said that seriously. There would have been no serious strategic focus, if any at all, and very little strategic effort to lift female-headed businesses and make them the center or bring them into the spotlight of development effort, competitiveness improvement, export readiness. And I think that what we have been able to witness with Caribbean Export over the course of the last few years is a transformation of that approach. And the very specific targeted focus for female-headed businesses and female entrepreneurship development, not only in Barbados but across the region, is something about which I think you also have to be congratulated. Because, as I said, there was a very clear bias. And it would be remiss of me, standing before you as a minister of government, not to recognize the failings of the region's government as well, because the institution that you came to lead would have been an institution which was struggling because of uncertainty by way of the beneficial countries not necessarily living up to their expectations by way of counterpart funding and counterpart financing. I think you made the point that under this 11th EDF, you would have benefited from 24 million euros, and you would have also had the benefit of counterpart funding from beneficiary countries. That has not always been the case. You would have, under the 11th EDF, seen about 29 million United States dollars being made available for you to do work, and as you just indicated, would have impacted 12,000, I believe it is 12,400 or so stakeholders across the 15 member states of the CARIFORUM region. That is significant work. But the fact of the matter is that that was not always the story to be told by Caribbean Export. And there were times when you would have been struggling manfully and only have the benefit of one donor, and that would have been the European Union. So that there's been a financial transformation. I want to congratulate you because I do not know what methods you took, but you've managed to get almost every single beneficiary state to be now moving from in the red in terms of their contribution to be in the black. And that is heavy lifting in this region. And on top of that, you've been able then to build partnerships with entities like Expertise France and Compete Caribbean, IADB, I believe World Bank as well, and so on. Too numerous, quite frankly, to mention. And I say all of this, Executive Director, because I'm mindful of the fact that I believe this is your swan song, and that you will be leaving us to go to greener pastures. And I begin by saying that I feel that we should not only salute you, but that we should thank you for the efforts that you've made to breathe new life into this very important regional institution. I want to say that the challenges that we overcame, ladies and gentlemen, have been difficult ones. And while there is a bright light ahead of us, there are still storm clouds on the horizon. David, I say this with the greatest respect. We have benefited tremendously from this partnership. And the European Union has been a good and faithful partner to this region, especially in circumstances where this region, coming out of the negotiations for the Economic Partnership Agreement, had made commitments to itself, not only to the European Union, but to ourselves, that we would do certain things that would improve our own capacity for competitiveness. Immediately coming to mind is the need for us to make sure that our accreditation arrangements, mutual accreditation between ourselves was such that we could then have accreditation between our schools of learning and education here in this region and the European Union, so as to make it easier for those people who do the major form of business in the Caribbean, which are the service providers, to be able to move more freely between this region and the European Union. That negotiation ended in 2008, ladies and gentlemen. And as I stand before you in 2024, that mutual accreditation exercise has not yet been completed in this region. So that there are some things about which we as a region have to be prepared to look in the mirror and to face the reality that we have invited upon ourselves, in many cases, difficulties which could have been and should have been avoided. And that is work, as I said, that still has to be done. And there are other areas as well. We need to have, and we are grateful for the efforts continuing from Europe to have your companies come into the Caribbean and bring with them investment. That is badly needed, and I thank you for that. We also, however, need to move our companies and our businesses into the European region. And I think that what we have seen here in terms of the panel discussion we just had and the report that was given is the beginning of building the capacity of our region's business people to be able not only to move across borders within this region and within the CARIFORUM marketplace, but also to go into Europe as well. And that is an ambition, I think, whose time has come. And we have to redouble our efforts. And again, I say frankly, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and to realize that these are things that we have to prioritize. I spoke of clouds on the horizon. And the clouds on the horizon obviously are some things that we have to discuss as well. Because as good and faithful a partner as Europe has been, there are some things, I think, which you have done out of an abundance of good faith and good intention, but may have the unintended consequences of creating pitfalls in this place, this region, and in similar locales around the world. It has been now, this is the month of April, 4 months since I came back, 3.5 months since I came back from the World Trade Organization ministerial meeting, where we had some discussions on the way in which we can do exactly what we are discussing here today about this region, but at a global level. And one of the issues of concern raised then was the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is an initiative of the European Union, ladies and gentlemen, that seeks to regulate and to reduce carbon emissions, and especially for the export of goods into the European Union. And I think it is a laudable step taken by Europe in order to reduce the pressures we face globally as a result of the climate crisis. Having said that, there are some perhaps unintended and unforeseen implications about which we as a region need to be having conversation. Because it can't only be about saying, woe is me, and I cry in my beer, and I sulk over my milk, but it has to be also about the region coming up with responses, because I think the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism initiative is real. It has been articulated now for several months. It has been implemented in the European Union. And I have heard the voice of India, I've heard the voice of South Africa, I've heard the voices of many developing parts of the South, China, etc., but I am not sure I'm hearing the voice of the Caribbean. And again, we have to look at ourselves in the mirror. And we have to be prepared to see how best we not only meet these challenges, but how we respond to them, and respond to them in a serious, sensible, and practical way. Because you just can't wish away a challenge. You have to find a way of working with it. And one of the things that I say to you is that the small island states, such as Barbados, are not the major polluters. We know this to be a fact. But equally, the small island states are disproportionately impacted. because you're now going to say to those people who are able to export into Europe for those goods or those categories of goods which are going to attract the carbon border tax, that you will have to pay more to enter Europe, and therefore that tariff makes you slightly or increasingly uncompetitive depending on what it is that you're doing. The danger in all of this, ladies and gentlemen, who perhaps have not studied it as closely as I want to think you had, is that, and I don't blame you, because if you haven't studied it closely, it means that it has not been, we have not made you conversant with it. And one of the challenges we have to face in this region too is how we make sure that we make serious and sensible information available to our public, that our publics can benefit from serious conversation and reflection on these things. If you just take that which you see by satellite from the United States of America, for example, which is the place from which we draw the vast majority of our information, you will find that you're going to only be burdened by stories about insurrection and the border and abortion issues and so on and so forth, things that we, quite frankly, laid to rest in Barbados a long, long time ago. But this is another matter for another time. The important point is this. We have to recognize that at present, the Europeans place this tax on a few items, none of which are relevant to people in this room immediately, because they are turned on things like cement and steel and fertilizer and hydrogen and ammonia and that type of thing. But there is an expectation, I think a real expectation, that there will be a creep and that the categories will expand. And that as the categories expand, they will capture some of the things that matter fundamentally to us. Air transportation is one of those things that perhaps matters fundamentally to us, because our tourism industry is linked inextricably to air transportation, and Europe is a major source market. And I don't want to predict what the future holds, but there are other areas. So that the conversation that we have to have, in my judgment, must be, how do we respond sensibly? And I believe that part of what we have to do is to invite the European Union to go back to the table with a view to discussion on ring-fencing some of these funds which are raised at the border, so as to ensure that small states like Barbados and our neighborhood here in this region, the Dominicas, the Grenadiers, the St. Lucias, etc., who all have ambitions to be able to export, and who all have to find the resources to transform our domestic production capacity so that we decarbonize our economies. And decarbonization of the economy is a large and lumpy investment call. That we must decarbonize our economies is a reality. The money to do so is the challenge. And perhaps, if ring-fenced, some portion of that which Europe now will take, and I am sure used for the purposes of decarbonizing its own economy, might well go to small island developing states, lest we left behind. But what cannot happen under any circumstances is that it simply becomes a new form of protectionism, and that the fight against climate becomes a new type of imperial effort. That is what we must avoid. And I'm not pointing my finger at you. I'm saying to you that that is a worst case scenario. But equally, I make the point that we have a duty, I think, to do some auditing here in this region. And that we must, and have not yet done so, but we must quickly do an audit of what our likely impact is on every state with respect to the ambitions we have for trading with Europe once they have this new mechanism in place. And if we do such an audit, we then understand how vulnerable we are. And having understood how vulnerable each country is, it gives us an opportunity to speak with Europe, not in the context of a one-size-fits-all approach, but on a state-by-state, regional basis, saying, look, these are the challenges that exist with regard to CARIFORUM countries. These are the challenges that may exist with regard to countries in the Pacific, et cetera, et cetera. And that allows, therefore, for there to be sensible negotiation as we navigate our way through these things. I feel that a place such as this is an important point for us to have these conversations. Because all of the good work, Executive Director, that you've been able to do can come to naught if we at policy level and those of us at non-governmental association level do not try to feed into the global process in order to make sense of challenges which are coming our way. And I go a little bit further and I say that I want to take this opportunity to congratulate you on the efforts you have made to remain faithful to the changing nature of the economy and global society in which we live. I noted today that a lot of effort is being made by Caribbean Export with respect to the question of the climate crisis, and that you are thrusting a lot of effort into businesses which are responding in a serious way to our ability to adapt and to build resilience. I think that the use of EV vehicles obviously is one excellent example. Equally, I recognize that alongside that and the renewable technology issue is also the digitization of our economies. And this is something that really makes life easier for every citizen of Barbados and every citizen by extension of the region, so that in one place we can find all of the services that government, for example, has to offer, all of your licenses, all of your permits, all of the fees that you pay can be dealt with digitally, saving you time, effort, money, resources, and so on. That makes life easier for business people. It makes life easier for every citizen. But it is the small, micro, and medium economies in Barbados that are really driving this effort, this transformation. And I think it is the small, micro, and medium economies of the region that are driving this transformation. And that is what makes it so vitally important that the work you are doing to bring along the small and micro economies is recognized. We have benefited, I believe, in Barbados from under the 11th EDF from interventions that would probably approximate around 100, but have touched over 1,000 beneficiaries. And I think that that is again, commendable. Equally commendable, in my view, is the effort you are making to help government walk hand in hand, or to walk hand in hand with government on the effort to build new marketplaces. And we, for a long time, have been very content to stand askance from Africa and not to try to build the bridge. That you are doing so by way of virtual contact, and that you have successfully been able to bring several businesses in Africa into contact with businesses here in the region, and that business-to-business contact is taking place in a real setting, and that we have in this room a company which was able to transplant itself and its business to Africa so that they are able to function in that environment, and they are not the only one. Some people are doing it virtually. Some people have established physical presence on the ground in Africa. There must be more of this. But it can, again, only come through the efforts of agencies like Caribbean Export and the work that you are quite usefully doing. So I say all of that simply to say, without wanting to trespass and wander into the wide array of things that we've heard today and repeat that which you obviously already know, that the journey ahead of us really is still a long one. And that there's been useful work done, but there's still a lot more work that we have to do. The relationships that we have to build with new marketplaces like Africa require time, require mutual understanding. Cultural practices and expectations are critical, and appreciating those cultural practices are also critical. I spent a good portion of my day yesterday with the chairman of China's International Development Agency, speaking with him about some issues with regard to efforts that they are making to partner with us here in Barbados. And again, the question of understanding the way they do business and their understanding the way we do business becomes very important. These are not overnight things that you just snap a finger and make it happen, but they require dedication, hard work, and commitment. But most importantly, above and beyond that, they require the policy initiative, which I hope and pray that you accept we are giving at governmental level, but they also require the private sector leadership and support. And in this regard, I believe that Caribbean Export is doing an excellent job in mobilizing the private sector and working with us to build a more productive and competitive private sector in Barbados. So without any further ado, I want to thank you yet again. I want to salute you for your tenure, congratulate you on your stewardship, and wish you all the very best in your future endeavors.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. I think we covered a great deal of very important aspects there, you know, as it relates to the trade and so forth. But I think, you know, with us all working together with the various development partners and as an organisation, if we put our focus and our energy in the right ways, I'm sure we'll be able to move forward in the right directions. So at this point, you know, this is where I'd like to invite our executive director to come up on stage because, you know, as we said, it's, you know, it's a bit of a team effort, right? There's a lot of us here, and so I'll just hand it over to Deirdre.
Yeah. And Joling, what am I supposed to do now? Honourable Minister, thank you so very much for your kind words. And we spoke about driving regional transformation, but we also spoke about transforming our agency. So we instituted a performance management system, and that performance management, you can't manage what you can't measure. This is what Dr. Singh from UE, I'm sure, will tell me. So we instituted a performance management system, and we used that methodology and that system to assess the performance of our staff. Based on the results, I mean, we have a truly exceptional team. And at our last performance management review for 2023, I mean, our staff members did really, really well. But 3 staff members were judged as outstanding. Interestingly enough, Minister, I thank you for your kind words because I wasn't adjudged as outstanding. Perhaps because I was chairing the panel. And interestingly enough, our top performers were all women. So you spoke about the data, Minister, and actually 53% of the beneficiaries of the work of Caribbean Export, they are women. 100% owned women businesses or co-owned. So my staff as well, Demi and I are also in a minority. And we have my dear friend Philip, who's returning to the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines, further reducing the male minority. But we have an outstanding group of colleagues, and three colleagues I wanted to recognize for excellence for the year 2023. I would ask the chair of our board of directors to join me on stage, and Veronica, if you'll kindly come as well. And the first person we would like to recognize is Michaela Stout. And Honorable Minister, Michaela is one of those outstanding Barbadians whose attention to detail and quality and results, absolutely amazing. The second person we would like to recognize, and this is not Deodat Maharaj saying this, we have removed discretion from the position of the executive director. So we have a performance management group that we meet and we look at the performance of all of our staff. And the second person is Edna Simpson. As we have transformed the governance of our institution and sought and built new partnerships, and Edna has been instrumental in this regard, and we'd like to salute Edna for her performance. And I hope we're not giving the wrong persons the award, but these people are outstanding. And the third colleague is Lisa Rodriguez, who has transformed the operations of our agency. We spoke about transparency and accountability and performance management system. And Lisa isn't here, so I would invite Kellyanne to collect the award on her behalf. Yeah, Lisa is our operations manager and has done a really fantastic job with this team. many years ago working in Asia about management by objective. This was a case of management by surprise because Kellyanne didn't know that she was going to collect on Lisa's behalf. But thank you so much, ladies, and thanks everybody for what a wonderful job you guys have done.
Thank you ever so much. So, yeah, congratulations, staff and fellow colleagues. It's been a wonderful working with you over the last year or two. And I would now like to invite Dr. Damie Sinanan, who will give the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Joellen. On behalf of the Board of Directors, the management, the staff of Caribbean Export Development Agency, we'd like to thank each and every one of you who took time out of your no doubt busy schedules to come and join us today to share this wonderful launching of our annual results report as well as the closing of the 11th EDF Regional Private Sector Development Program. I'd like to thank all the speakers who took part in our panel and who joined us here on stage, especially Honorable Minister Kerry Simmons, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade for the Government of Barbados. We'd also like to thank our donors, primarily the European Union, who continues to be a steadfast partner for Caribbean Export Development Agency, as well as the other donors to contribute to results for the last year, namely UNESCO, the EU Digital Alliance, the IDB, Compete Caribbean, Sylvia and her team, as well as Expertise France. Caribbean Export vows, and of course the Caribbean Development Bank, yes. It's in my notes. Yeah, Caribbean Export vows to continue the work of the work that we've been doing over the past so many years to continue to impact upon private sector in the Caribbean region, to help them grow and become more competitive, go out there, export, as well as attract foreign direct investment. And to do this, we have a number of exciting initiatives coming up. We spoke about the EU3 program that was signed in October. We are in the process of ramping up that implementation, and that program will take us over the next 4 years. And Caribbean Export will continue to develop partnerships. We will be executing programs in this upcoming year, including our CIF 2024, our Caribbean Digital Transformation Institute, of which we are partnering with Compete Caribbean, as well as the Ease of Doing Business project funded through Caribbean Development Bank. See, I was not going to leave them out. So next year, when we have our 2025 annual results report, you will hear about the exciting results from these programs, as well as the no doubt greater than 90% implementation rates. Caribbean Export will continue to seek new partners so that we can bring more resources to the region to assist the private sector. We will be developing a new strategic plan this year to take us over the next 3 years as we continue to be relevant. So before I close, I have a special item that was not on the agenda, and it's going to be a surprise. I would like to invite our chair, Dr. Lynette Holder, to the podium to deliver this surprise for us.
Thank you very much, Damie. And he's right in indicating this was not on the agenda. So the executive director is actually quite shocked and wondering why I am here. But I'm using my chair's privilege. There you go. 3 years ago, colleagues, Yada Maharaj joined the Caribbean Export Development Agency as its executive director. Ironically enough, I joined the board just about 4 months prior. So in a sense, this has been our journey over the last 3 years. Immediately, we got down to business. And there that mantra was, and still is, let's talk more business. Let's talk more business. We created a CEO chairperson's forum beyond the regular meetings of the board and executive meeting of the board and so on. We we would meet every quarter to make sure that we are on track. And there are 5 key areas that stood out for me during his tenure. 1, he was able to transform the operations of the agency. You heard earlier the performance management system that was introduced, because we believe, like Drucker says, what gets measured gets done. We've seen significant work at the level of the operations during that time. Secondly, he was able to pivot to what I call new levels and new areas of programming. This annual results report launch is just one of them. I mentioned and you heard about the Caribbean Investment Forum, the focus on digitalization and so many other areas. So we were able to pivot new programs during that time. Dear that, I was very pleased to realize, agreed with me that we needed to demonstrate the commitment of our countries in the CARIFORUM region in honoring their commitments. Now, I had the second largest financial cooperative in Barbados, so I'm always looking at non-performing loans and paying attention to receivables, etc. So he and I shared this from the very beginning, and the minister rightly said, I'm not so sure, Minister, you were very well informed, that we were able to move from being in the red to being in the black at the end of last year, December. We were able to bring that receivable down to by nearly 90%. Significant work done in that area. And another one was the focus on partnerships. Talked about it a lot. David is very thankful to the EU for all the support over the years. But we recognize that we couldn't just rely on funding from the EU. And Deodat and the team set about to create that paradigm. CDB has come on board and is supporting significantly our programming. During that 3 years, we've been able to pursue partnerships, colleagues, to the tune of over $15 million, headed by Deodat, led by the team, to make sure that we decentralize, if you will, our revenue base and not have to rely only on the EU. And the 5th one, maybe most dear to my heart, is the area of governance. We chatted early and he was surprised that I'm actually a governance professional. I said, the first thing I do when I go on a board, give me the bylaws, give me the constitution, because that is my guiding principle. It is the Bible for me, at least, of the agency. So give me the intergovernmental agreement, because we want to follow that. Until it changes, that is our modus operandi. And so we reconvened board meetings that weren't being held as frequently as they should. We are on track now. The executive committee of the board, we are on track now. The program committee, we are on track now. And all of the points listed in that IGA, we were able to work on and strengthen the governance of Caribbean Export. And so, colleagues, I will admit, it really is going to be a loss to the agency. As you heard the minister rightly mention, that served with us for 3 years. He's moving on to greener pastures. And you'll appreciate we can't really stop persons from doing that. Now, can we? There's a quote that says, if I sang the praises of your hard work, I would lose my voice pretty quickly. Because he has done a significant job, indelible effort in positioning this agency now to pivot. We are thankful to all the partners in the room. We can assure you that we have great plans for the ensuing term, the ensuing years. So we really want to say that to you. Thank you. Please join me as we offer this small token of thanks. Job well done, folks. Well done. Thank you so much, Yoda, for the sterling efforts and the performance over the last 3 years. The agency is definitely indebted to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Don't worry, Deodat, we have our little informal line tomorrow. I'm sure you'll hear from the rest of us tomorrow. We'll save it at that. So with that being said, thank you all very much. Do join us for some refreshments outside. Let's network and let's celebrate and let's have a good time and let's get home all safely. Thank you so much. Good evening.